lads, welcome back to this slightly belated podcast episode. Just a week late, but my conscience is clean because I remember I did actually go back to our first podcast where we said our goal was 2 a month, but we would really aim for at least 1 a month. So we haven't lied to you guys completely.
Yeah, exactly. Still keeping that the promise going in the first episode. Yeah, I apologize for not for us having 1 week delayed, but yeah, last week I felt a bit under the weather. It wasn't COVID or anything, which was nice. I took a couple tests actually to be sure. And yeah, but now I'm back in full health, and yeah, I'm feeling good.
Yeah, good to hear you're back, lad. Yeah, what I've been meaning to ask you, because we haven't chatted for a few days now, because in Sweden this the past weekend it was what we call MidSummer, so it's actually quite a big celebration. Really, like after Christmas, it's like the biggest sort of tradition we have here. But how was yours, lad? How'd you celebrate?
So I'm down in Malmö right now, working with Link & Co. And so since I'm down here, I hit up a friend who studies in Lund as well, and he hosted a midsummer lunch where he invited some of his friends, and yeah, we had some nice herring, snaps, and potatoes, and just some nice herring lunch there at his place.
The works.
Yeah, exactly. And of course with the usual snapsvisor, as we say in Swedish, which is basically songs that you sing while taking a little shot of. Yeah. We didn't make any homemade snaps, which was bad, but we had the classic O.P. Anderson aquavit. Yeah. So yeah, it was a nice traditional celebration, but we didn't have a maypole to dance around, so that I didn't do any of this year. No dancing around the maypole, but I'm hoping that you did so and can represent the Stogie lads in a good Swedish manner. Tell me about your celebration.
Yeah, I did we did have a nice pole that we have every year around the summer house. I posted from there a lot on the story, including the maypole. But yeah, I went to the countryside, the family summer house, and met up with the whole extended family. It was really nice, just to get away from Stockholm for a little bit. And yeah, also the works, a lot of herring. If you guys haven't already noticed, that's a big part. Fish is a big part of our just Christmas and midsummer foods and everything. Also some snaps. It's very Viking-esque when you think about it. I remember my Brazilian friend saying that when they were over for midsummer, the way we like drink, you have like a beer or wine or whatever, and then also like the liquor on the side, and then you stop to sing songs in unison and drink shots. Feels like you're on like a long table and just very Viking-esque to singing and drinking during the meals, but it's nice. It's very nice. And I had a few cigars as well. Brought some whiskey. Brilliant. And shared cigars with the family, which is always nice. A lot of family members trying them out. Always the same results, like I say. When people, in the right situations try cigars, everyone seems to like it. And my grandfather had several even, and he never smoked cigars, and he had several cigars. I brought some JLPs, the new Petit Caballeros that I got from Daniel. Just very good cigars, smoking very well and very approachable. Like they have a nice Cuban light to medium flavor, and people like them. And then I had a Cusano as well that I posted on the feed. So yeah, super nice. Just nice to get away and nice to have some summer weather finally.
Yeah, sounds like a really nice midsummer. Just getting away from the city and relaxing with some cigars and family. Sounds awesome.
Yeah, we've been having a lot of cigars recently, like in company a lot, because we went to a nice dinner as well that were hosted by some people through Instagram, right, lad?
Yeah, exactly. So that was awesome. It was just great initiative to get together with some great guys, and just had a nice evening with grilling, and we smoked 3 cigars each that night, just sitting outside the terrace. The time just flew by, and really nice time.
Yeah, I almost forgot about this. We had the Gurkhas that we
Yeah,
did
yeah,
post
right.
about the Gurkha. We didn't do a video or anything, but we were given a Gurkha by the guy that hosted us, Charles. Very very kind
Hmm.
host there. And yeah, what do you if you just want to summarize quickly, Lai, what did you think of the Gurkha?
Yeah, absolutely. So we all smoked the Gurkha together, just straight off the first cigar we had that evening, and I must say,
It was a
like,
Westminster,
yeah,
by the way,
exactly,
the make.
the Gurkha Westminster. So yeah, well, I mean, I think we all were pretty in unison there in saying that the cigar was not very complex at all.
Hmm.
It was kind of like a thin, light smoke, and for 4 out of 5 of us, we had construction issues, like we said, and not overly impressed at all by by the brand. And it was yeah, I mean, it was good to try, of course. Like,
Hmm. Yeah.
you want to try stuff that people talk about,
Yeah.
and yeah, but not a very memorable cigar at all, I feel.
Yeah, it just Charles, the guy that gave them to us, he warned us before that it wasn't going to transition at all throughout
Hmm.
the smoke. It was just going to stay the same, and it really was spot on. Like, it was just kind of lightly Maduro style flavors, but not really very developed, and they didn't change at all. And like
Yeah.
Ruben said, 4 out of 5 cigars had construction issues, varying degrees of construction issues, which just for non-Cuban brands is so rare
Hmm.
at that ratio. Like 80% of the cigars
Yeah, yeah.
that smoked from Gurkha that night had construction issues. That's crazy. And like, it wasn't the humidor or anything, like, because the cigars we smoked later from that same humidor were perfect. So I mean, it was
Yeah,
just straight
yeah,
up, the
exactly.
Gurkhas were not in good quality.
Hmm.
Mine tunneled for a while. It did correct itself, but I had to double puff a lot to keep it alive, and
Yeah.
just, I don't know, just seemed pretty cheap. And another thing to add, which I don't think I wrote in the post. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if I remember, but the retail price that they write, like the price that these cigars officially are supposed to be, is $20 per stick, which is
Hmm.
like, it almost pisses me off because that's so
I know.
stupid. But then they're sold for just around $4. In actuality, they're actually sold everywhere at around $4 a stick, which is so extremely dumb. What is that, like a 75% markdown? Like, come on.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I definitely say it was more to the $4 side than the $20 side for
Yeah, it
guaranteed.
performed that way for sure. But yeah, it was just really cool that some people from Instagram just DM'd us and had us over for dinner and cigars.
Yeah.
Anyone else that wants to do so, we're always open to come over. We're never gonna say no to drinks and cigars and barbecues. So yeah, please do invite us.
For sure. It was a great evening.
It was amazing. Speaking of drinks, I guess let's transition into the next segment, lad.
Yes.
What's I want to hear now. What's in your glass?
All right, so what I've got is a Gotlands Bryggeri People's Bulldog IPA here, actually, that I just picked up. I'm at the hotel here in Malmö, so I can't do any cocktail mixing. So I just picked up a beer here and went for the IPA. It's
Nice.
I like Gotlands Bryggeri. It's a Swedish brewery, and they've made some like Sweden's best beers, and yeah, really nice design on their bottles as well. And I've tried the other IPAs in the Bulldog series, and yeah, I really like it. So if you guys can come across those, then definitely check them out.
Yeah, I was making faces at Ruben. That's why he laughed there, because I'm not a big IPA fan. I love pretty much all beers there are, but for some reason, there's like this almost fruity, floralish, berry-like taste in IPAs that I just, for some reason, can't get around. I like other types of ales, but there's something in IPAs that just rubs me the wrong way. I don't know.
Yeah, this
what
one
it
was especially fruity, and it's a bit on the lower alcohol side, like only 3.5%. Yeah, the fruitiness really comes up in this one. And tell me, lad, what do you have? Something stronger?
Yeah, another whiskey. I've been really like craving Scotch. I don't know why. I brought the Teeling rum cask to the summer house. I think mainly because I just wanted a lighter rum or whiskey. It's aged in rum cask though, that a lot of people could enjoy, and we almost finished that bottle over that weekend. But it was good with the cigars. But now I've just been craving like a nice single malt, and I'm going for the Glenlivet 18 years here. from Joseph Steinmetz on Instagram sent us this bottle.
Wow,
Incredible
nice.
gift. And this is just a nice Speyside single malt Scotch. A little on the lighter side, but nice and fruity and honey. I've had we had a glass as well on the pairings podcast.
Yeah.
Right.
We must have.
And my mouth is actually watering, so I need to go into
Yeah,
the sip
yeah.
lot. So you can kill some time now.
Absolutely, yeah. Just for me in this angle, it looked kind of dark on this angle. I'm not sure if it's the light, but yeah.
It's very standard
Okay.
Scotch color, I would say.
Yeah, it must
I
be
think it's just dark behind me.
Yeah, probably. Anyway, yeah, I can talk a bit about what we're gonna talk about in this episode.
Yeah, go ahead, Lod.
And I guess this is, basically what it is we're going to go through some cigar mistakes that you either are or aren't making. And some will be smoke related, and some will be just about cigars in general. Just some stuff that we've picked up through like looking back at when we first started smoking, and something that, just stuff that we've thought about along the ways.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I think some of these are just like mistakes that we used to make. Like you said, some of this stuff is just bad mistakes that we used to make. But some of these are things people know, I think. I think some people will know about, like, oh, you shouldn't do this, quote unquote. But I think we might bring some clarity as to why you shouldn't do this. I mean, you want to start off there?
Yeah,
Lod?
I'll start off. So
you can kick us off.
Exactly. Kicking us off with some of the more like smoking related mistakes that you might be making is, before you even light a cigar or start smoking it, you have to cut the cigar, of course. And one of the mistakes that you could be making is cutting too much off the cap. And this is something, when looking back at our old pictures, we definitely did. Because you can see, like, the cigars, we just cringe at it now pretty much. But, looking at the cigar and just, like, having it chopped off way too much, like half a centimeter in or something. What you really should do when cutting the cigar is only cutting the cap off, or just like the shoulders, as they say on the cigar. So you definitely don't want to go too far in. It's about like approximately 2 millimeters, and of course this varies from like size and vitola. But the risk of cutting too much off is actually that like the wrapper can unravel and just totally disintegrate your entire cigar and cigar smoking experience for that one. So
and, I'd say I've been making it almost a sport to cut off as little of the cap as possible. I mean, honestly, the rule is just cut as literally as little as possible, because I mean that's the intention. The more you cut, like you say, it brings some risks to it. So you want to just literally just shave off the absolute top.
Yeah, because you can always cut more if you cut too little. So yeah.
And I think one that goes a little bit along with this one, with cutting, one that I wanted to bring up, because I learned this, I don't know where I read it. I think not everyone knows this, but another mistake is not cutting torpedoes at an angle if you're using a straight cutter. Because if you cut straight, you either have to get like a solid draw, I feel like you either have to take off quite a lot, or you have to like use a tool or something, like to get a big enough draw where it doesn't like make you really like suck on the cigar like a madman. You need to you need to cut off quite a lot, and at that point you can also get into the risk of unraveling. Cutting your cigar at an angle makes the opening sort of wider. It brings more surface area without you having to go really far down on the cigar. Or use a V-cutter. V-cutters are actually very, very unsung heroes in terms of torpedoes. Because like my Colibri V-cutter here, it has a hole in the back. So the torpedo can go through. And then it cuts it perfectly. Because the V makes it go in a little bit too and opens up more surface area. So V-cutters are actually... They seem like they wouldn't work for torpedoes, but they're actually perfectly designed to be used on torpedoes. So that's another good tip for me, to be honest.
Yeah, very good tip. One that's probably not very easy to find out there either, that tip. Yeah, so after you've cut your cigar and you want to smoke it, you have to light the cigar. And Lad, tell me, what's the best way of doing this?
Yeah, our friends at All Things Cigars on Instagram has a very good video on there. If you go through their feed on how they light, they're like, I think that's their way is the most like fail-proof way. They literally set the cigar down on an ashtray, and then you want to hold the lighter kind of far away and really toast it. And I've seen mixed feelings on this. I know there's a lot of those like kind of I'm just I shoot straight and I don't, you know, I don't beat around the bush, whatever, like you don't need to toast your cigar, it's all just bullshit, you know, it's like pretentious or whatever. But genuinely, it's not about looking like, I don't know, very posh or whatever when you're lighting your cigar. It genuinely is crucial. But you can hold it in your hand as well, but just toasting it in circles slowly, never letting, you know, the light, the literal fire, touch the cigar. You don't want your cigar to be lighting up at the end, which, you know, if you've ever stuck your cigar in your mouth and lit it that way, you've probably experienced that before, where the cigar literally catches on fire because it's so hot at that point. You know, there's several reasons as to why you don't want to do this. First and foremost, if you're not toasting your cigar, you're not often going to get an even burn. And we've had people in our Discord and in our DMs, you know, talk to us about lighting cigars, and they've changed up their lighting style, and they've literally come back to us and said like, wow, this has changed, you know, my burns are so even now because I'm just making sure the wrapper, binder, and filler are all lit at the same time. Because really, that's where it comes down to. If you're sticking your cigar in your mouth and lighting it like people light cigarettes, like you just hold the lighter there and you're puffing in, the center, the core, the filler, basically, will be lighting up the most and the hottest, and then the wrapper will sort of fall behind, and you'll get a really charred, hot taste in the filler, and you risk, you know, tunneling and an uneven burn. So really, I mean, it is pretty crucial in that sense to just toast your cigar and really be just very slow about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And since like a smoke is often anyway around like an hour or more, then it's then why not just use those extra seconds or minutes to get a really nice toast. And it's, yeah, once you start doing it that way, and you probably won't ever go back to lighting your cigar in any other way, because it's a nice ritual also as well to start by letting the cigar like have the best prerequisites for a good smoke. And of course you're the one smoking the cigar, so you should be like treating it with the most care to give yourself the best smoke.
Absolutely. And there's no need to rush, right? I mean, like you said, you're gonna sit down for a long time. Even a petite Corona is at least half an hour. You're saving yourself like a minute lighting it in your mouth like that. What's the point at that point? You know, why do it? Speaking of pace, lad, you want to do the second one?
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, like we said, you really just don't want to stress yourself when smoking a cigar, and that goes as well for how fast you're puffing. So you really want to pace yourself for many reasons, not just because it's nice and relaxing, but also so that, like we said, with the lighting, that your cigar gets an even burn, and that different parts of the cigars don't, or the cigar, they don't burn faster than other parts. So all the parts of the cigar, the three parts, should burn equally fast, and because they're all working together to create this blend and flavor in your mouth.
And I think this goes for different situations as well. We've had discussions along the same lines in our Discord, where I think when we say like pace yourself, people know in general, people that smoke cigars, that follow us on Instagram, that listen to this podcast, you guys know you're not supposed to puff cigars like cigarettes and go crazy, right? But I think with different situations, you smoke at different paces, and I think just be mindful, because I realize sometimes when I'm smoking with friends or whatever, I smoke much more inconsistently. I can sometimes puff a lot when I'm not speaking, and when I'm speaking, I can set it down. And that's not great for the cigar in general either. I mean, obviously, you don't need to be like policing yourself and like setting a timer there and going, whoa, 1 minute up, next puff, you know. But it like Ruben said, the blend is so meticulous. There's so much work that goes behind making a cigar that, you know, the best situation is an even burn, an even light, and an even puffing speed, because at that point you're never overheating it and you're never letting it die. But I think if you guys could try it out, because I've sometimes, you know, kind of tested out how if you go with a kind of cheap cigar, try to, you know, start smoking the cigar like as slowly as you can, and just experiment to see how slow can I actually smoke this without it going out. And then you can, a little bit later in the cigar, try to, you know, take a puff every 20 seconds or whatever. You'll really taste how that flavor, when you've sat down your cigar for a long time, it's very subdued and you don't taste it a lot. And when you're really puffing that cigar, those darker, more toasty, like harsh notes come out. So even within the same cigar, you can get different notes from the pace you're smoking, and just try to find that balance where you really are enjoying the cigar. Because there's some people like Lawrence Davis, this British guy that owns Sauter Cigars, a big brand, like he smokes Robustos in sub 30 minutes. And that's just insane. And we discussed this guy and how is he enjoying his cigars, but I guess everyone's a little bit different there.
Yeah. But you can also tell, like with your when you ash your cigar, or when the ash drops from the cigar, if you're smoking too fast or too slowly, because you'll see then when the ash drops, if the wrapper hasn't caught up as much with the filler, and or if the filler's like dragging instead.
You can see that if it's cone shaped, like if you ash your cigar and your filler, like the ash falls off, but it's like a triangle pointy cone shape, you're probably smoking a little too fast. That's not a be all end all sort of summary. It can mean other things. Some filler tobacco types just burn the way, to make that cone. Sometimes they just burn hot naturally because of the way the tobacco is. But in general, if you notice that you have a sort of cone shape most of the time when you smoke a cigar, when you ash it, you're probably smoking a little bit too fast. It's just the way it burns. If it burns a little too hot, I think it solidifies more like the filler and becomes like a hard ash, and that's why it doesn't fall. I think I'm not a scientist or biologist in that way. But speaking of ash, lad, there's more there.
Exactly. So when I said ashing, it's not that you want to ash too frequently, because that can be a mistake as well. Just whenever you take a couple of puffs, then you ash the cigar, that's definitely not how you want to do it, and that's definitely not how cigars are made to be smoked either. They're in really good cigars, or well constructed cigars, the ash will hold for a very long time, and it does that because of the great construction. It's definitely not only like a aesthetic thing, like something to post on Instagram. Wow, look, I got this huge ash. It actually fills a function as well of having that long ash. Tell me, lad, what that is.
Yeah, for sure. Because like cigarette smokers, they, again, another way cigars just aren't similar. Cigarette smokers will ash their cigarettes constantly, and I noticed this weekend as well, when some of my family members that hadn't tried cigars before tried them. They were sort of they asked me after a while, because they saw I wasn't ashing, but I forgot to tell them about that. But they were like, reaching for the ashtray really early on, after a few puffs. It's not really that natural, because I think cigar ash looks as if it should drop any second, right? And I'm really getting off topic now, but I just wanted to mention that quickly. But like you said, there is a very good reason as to not ash it, and I'm not sure everyone's heard of this. Because I think this is one of those examples where I think most people know that you shouldn't be ashing your cigar like crazy. But first of all, you're always kind of risking damaging it if you're hitting it all the time and whatever. It's just not good for the cigar. Like, you could crack your wrapper if you're like tapping it all the time or whatever. But mainly, you want, in general, you just want your cigar to burn nice and cool, right? You want the flavor to be developed. You want to get a lot of flavor, but you don't want the hot harshness that everyone's experienced that kind of flavor, because that's what you get right in the end when the cigar is like, it's done, it's over. That's when it burns really hot, but you don't want that to come before the final end. And if you're ashing your cigar all the time, it doesn't keep cool as well. Like, keeping a long solid ash helps improve the burn, because wind doesn't come in as much into the cherry, the center. But it also just keeps the smoke burning cool and steady, and it keeps an even burn as well. So it's just it's good to keep it as long as possible. Then you don't want to be dropping it on yourself all the time either.
Absolutely, because I would assume as well that your cigar will smoke a lot faster if you keep ashing all the time, because you're getting more oxygen to the center of the cigar, so it'll keep that fire going and make it hotter. So keep that ash on.
Yeah, definitely. All right, next one. This is a mistake that I think we both made for about a year. I think probably the first year of us smoking cigars, both because of the difficulty of entry. like it's not so easy to do this as the other tips that we've said, but also just because of like not knowing, because it's a little more niche. But yeah, what am I hinting at here, lad?
Yeah, you're obviously talking about retrohaling. So if you're not retrohaling, then you're not really getting the full identity of the cigar, like during the smoke. And yeah, retrohaling, basically what you do is you take your puff of the cigar, and then you exhale like 90% of it through your mouth, and then the last 10% of it out through your nose. What that is for really is just to be able to pick up on flavors that are more hidden in the cigar, because when you do that through your nose, then you get more of you get a stronger impact of the cigar. And that being said, you don't want to do that on every puff, because then every puff will be enhanced on the cigar, and which may sound like a nice thing, but it definitely won't, because it's a combination of the two, of having the because if you would do it every puff, then obviously it would be just too nice much at all. Yeah.
Yeah, some people do though. I mean, I've seen some people that basically retrohale all the time, but I think those are like oftentimes those people are very heavy veterans, and I think they've just burnt out their palates so hard that they just need to retrohale, otherwise they can't taste anything. But yeah, what Ruben said is spot on. It's when you get your olfactory system involved even more. Obviously, already everyone knows, smell is a huge part of what you taste already. So when you burn that, or when you exhale the smoke literally throughout the nostrils, you pick up on a lot of hidden flavors, and it is a lot more intense. And what I was hinting at before, it's kind of difficult to do, to be honest, especially when you're starting out. I still remember some of the first times I tried to retrohale, and I just I literally burnt my nostrils. And like one day, I remember one time I tried it with a Juan Lopez No. 2, and I remember this so well because my nostrils were burnt for like 2 days. Like I really felt it. Because I'd read about retrohaling, and I hadn't really experimented myself, so I just took a nice big puff and then went straight through the nose, and boom, like it just knocked me out, like I couldn't smell anything. But like Ruben said, that's maybe not the most obvious way to do it, but that really is for us the correct way to retrohale. You want to take a nice cool long puff, exhale a lot of it through your mouth, because during those seconds the smoke cools down a little bit too, and it doesn't, it's not an incredibly intense blast of smoke coming through your nose, because then it's a little more subtle. A lot of the times, if you're taking a full puff through your nose, it's just white pepper, basically. It's just all pepper, and you can't really taste much else, and that defeats the purpose and also ruins the rest of your smoke. So you really want to be retrohaling every once in a while. I'll do it a lot more with lighter cigars, like the Cusano I smoked this weekend. I was retrohaling probably every third, fourth puff, just because it was so light. I wanted to get more flavor in. Not in a bad way, just it was pleasant to retrohale more. And then sometimes, like when I smoked the Padron 1926 series, for example, I was not retrohaling very often there, because it's just such a powerful stick. So we want to experiment your way forward, but really, if you haven't done it before, start by blowing out almost all your smoke through the mouth, and then just breathe out your nose. It's not really challenging. You don't want to inhale though, but in your mouth. It's easy to mess up in a lot of ways. You just don't want to get it into your lungs. But yeah, it definitely improves the experience.
Yeah, I guess try it out with a light cigar first, or light bodied cigar.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So moving on, we have another mistake here of not dry boxing your cigars, and this also can be pretty tough to like get into a routine of doing before smoking a cigar. And what it essentially means is that before smoking the cigar, you take it out of the humidor and place it in another box, like a old cedar cigar box or something like that, just to let it sit outside the humidor for a bit. And the purpose of doing this is just to like try to minimize the moisture in the cigar, because basically just let it have a better prerequisites for the smoke. Because what
we
can
talked
happen,
about this in the I just remembered now when you were talking now. I remember we talked about this in the humidor one. So if you want like a deeper breakdown of it, you can listen there.
Absolutely.
But for Cubans, it really is. I think it's tough calling it a mistake. I mean, it depends what you keep your humidity at. But if you're using like 69% Boveda packs, it really can help. And I remember we talked about that a lot in the Humidor podcast.
Yeah,
but that is
that as well.
That's a lot of the reason why a lot of people complain about Cuban construction is because they're not smoking them at the right humidity. So that's and this is a perfect segue, because the next one is very much the same way. Dry boxing will minimize plugged bad cigars, and then even if they are plugged, even after dry boxing, what do you want to do then, lad?
Even after dry boxing the cigar,
if it's plugged.
Oh, if it's plugged, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
You don't want to throw out your plugged sticks, guys. You did that before when there was no solution for it, but there actually is now, and it's something we've also been talking about a bit, is the perfect draw tool. If you do have a plugged cigar, then I guess normally you would just throw it out because it's plugged. There's no way of fixing it, but you can via the perfect draw tool that you have, Carl. I really need to get mine soon. Because it's a very inexpensive investment that just has a buyback time of 1 to 2 premium cigars or something like that. So 1 or 2 cigars that are plugged that you have to throw away, and you've already got that price back from the investment of the perfect draw tool. That you can just, guys, check them out and see how they work. They're pretty simple to
sounds
use.
like
we use
here.
them. It's not. I must mention it's not our sponsor, and we actually did use it at the evening we had with the gents there. Saved.
Oh yeah, I have not had mine for that long, and now I just realized I forgot about that. It saved many a Cohiba, and it's already saved, because when we had our Cohiba Robustos maybe a month ago now, lad. Mine was completely plugged beyond smoking. It was one of the worst plugged cigars I've had, actually. And I just stuck out the perfect draw tool. I had to stab it about 6 times, to be honest, but it did save it completely. And that would have been a Cohiba, an expensive cigar, Cohiba Robusta, that I would have had to throw out, and I would have had no other choice if I didn't have the perfect draw tool. So that saved my ass that time for real. And already then, like you said, that already bought back the price of it. And then, the guys we met up with last week, they also had some Cohibas, Maduro Cincos, even more expensive cigars, the Genios. And those are almost $40 cigars. Yeah. And one guy's was a little bit plugged, but he used the perfect draw tool and it opened it up, and he didn't, he could smoke the whole cigar. So it's so worth it. Yeah,
and you also become very, very popular when you bring that to a group and someone has a plugged cigar.
Yeah. All right, next one, a quick one. I just added this right before. But this one is not rotating the cigar, and I guess this goes along with the stuff before, but the burning. You don't need to. I remember when I read about cigars, a lot of the guides, like when we were kids, when we were really young, when we read about cigars, a lot of the guides said that you should rotate when you're smoking, and I really thought that you should be rotating all the time. I mean, that's not really what you need to do, but rotating is pretty clutch, and especially if you have an uneven burn. If you put the slow burning side down, so that faces the ground, that can often help bring back the burn and make it more even. And I think that's just because the oxygen enters the cigar from below, right? And it just burns a little bit faster on the bottom side.
Yeah, exactly. It's you want to have exactly the slow burning side down because like you said, that's basically it, I think.
Yeah, that's a good tip.
Definitely.
All right, so now we have a different category a little bit. That was all about smoking, right? All about the acts, all the mistakes that you can do while actually smoking the cigar. This is a little more about the stuff happening around the smoking, the purchases you're making, and the judgments you have. And everyone has preconceived notions. Everyone has their stereotypes, and everyone has their little cigar racist thoughts where they exclude some stuff.
Cigar discrimination.
Yeah.
So starting off, you have you shouldn't really be judging a cigar by its size. Size matter, guys. So I guess a lot of people
size doesn't matter. Right?
I guess you can say that a lot of people shy away from smaller vitolas, just because
and we're looking at you, America. Holy shit, you guys love your everything
not to point any
in XXL.
Yeah. But yeah, when looking at like a small half Corona or something, and like judging that because you feel like you're getting a really small cigar that won't like smoke very long or whatever it is you're judging it for, yeah, like
it's just not a great attitude. I mean, I read, I was trying to remember who wrote this. It was some kind of manufacturer, cigar manufacturer. Oh no, I think it was Edgar Julian Sued in our interview. He talked about the fact that the 6x60 Gordo size is one that the cigar makers aren't huge fans of because there's just so much filler in there. But they're becoming very popular, especially in the United States, because people just find the value a little bit better. Because at that point, you know, you guys know with cigars, I mean, a cigar has a starting cost, and then when the same cigar line, the same family of cigars, they have different sizes, right? You have the Robustos, the Toros, the Churchills, or whatever. But at that point, like, you get a much bigger cigar for only a tiny bit more money, and a lot of people just see, you know, well, if I'm paying, you know, $8 for this stick, I could get the Gordo for like another $1, and I'm getting a much bigger cigar, and it's much better value. But at the end of the day, it's not really that way. Oftentimes, like most, you need to keep in mind that most cigar blenders are blending the size for, you know, the more traditional ones, and then they're basically making these like Gordos because there's a demand for it, but the cigar is blended with a Robusto in mind or whatever, and they're just like throwing that one out there. You're not really getting the best cigar in that family. Maybe, okay, you added 10 more minutes on your smoking time, but you're getting a worse cigar.
Yeah, exactly. And if you want to talk about value, then like the majority of the value is basically in the wrapper, and what you're paying for extra then with like a thicker ring gauge or whatever is just more filler in there pretty much. So
that's why the price doesn't go up that much.
Exactly.
Even though it's a lot bigger.
Yeah, exactly. So and also these smaller vitolas can absolutely can smoke for, like, we've been impressed by the H. Upmann half Corona smoking for about like 35 minutes, 40 minutes or something like that, and you can never really tell just by looking at a cigar how fast it'll smoke. Like, it obviously depends on the construction as well. So so yeah, bigger doesn't 100%. Mean longer smoke. It doesn't mean more value. So don't shy away from smaller vitolas for that reason.
Yeah, and it certainly doesn't mean more flavor, and that's another one of those things that we keep hammering home, and I think we've talked about this in a lot of episodes now, but a lot of people equate size with flavor. They think a big cigar, it's got to be a strong one, you know, but it's not really the case, because like we say all the time, filler is oftentimes the lightest, you know, most flavorless tobacco. You're just getting more filler in there. It's just going to get more bland. Like, I'm not going to name, but we saw a review from someone or some people that were smoking some cigars that they don't usually smoke, and they were kind of small cigars, and these were people in North America that were, and they kept saying, you know, wow, it's so flavorful, but it's so small. And I was just sitting there like, that's not related, you know, that has nothing to do with each other. Size and taste, it's not like that has nothing to do with each other. And I think a lot of people just don't think smaller, I mean, most of the time that's more intense. You're getting more intense flavor in thinner, smaller cigars because it's more concentrated. And it's kind of frustrating that the trend is going towards large cigars. And I'm very vocal about that. I'm really opposed to it. And I dislike the fact that like 55 to 60 ring gauge is a very normal thing right now. And it's fine in some cases, but in general, I'm not a big fan, and the flavor is just not all there. And similarly, you know, size doesn't mean flavor, but also color doesn't really indicate anything flavor, right? And that's another mistake. Yeah,
because I think that we've talked about this before as well, but I mean, in the beginning, people can easily believe that like a darker cigar, like a Maduro, is going to be this super heavy, just like the bigger cigar. It's going to be like the strong punching, like cigar, but I mean, that doesn't have to be the case all the time either. Just like with the Gurkhas, we had, drawing that example recently,
spot on,
very dark cigar and dark Maduro that was not very heavy at all, and so that's also something you can't judge by just the color of the cigar.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think, oh, I like the lighter stuff, and then they'll never buy Maduros. which is that's a huge mistake, because that's like, you know, they're like, oh, I don't love full-bodied cigars, so anything that's darker than, you know, a Colorado Claro or whatever, I'm not going to touch. That's a really big mistake, because there's so many. Like you a week and a half ago or something had the Cigar Kings Maduro, which is a fairly light Maduro as well. Like it's definitely not a crazy punch in the face cigar, but it's a very dark one on the outside. So that's just a, you know, a big mistake, just judging by looks, which the next point also touches on, lad.
Yeah, next point is judging by the band, and so
it's a little sillier, but it happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
I assure you.
And I mean, this is something that I guess like is pretty natural occurring, just because like like the same thing. Don't judge a book by its cover. Don't judge a cigar by the band. Like, of course, if you're I can also like be more aesthetically attracted to like a very nice band, and that's got this,
it's
like
marketing.
Historic details and stuff. Yeah, exactly. It's marketing, and that's the one part that the cigar companies can have on every single cigar that they produce is this band. You can't always replicate a very nice wrapper on the cigar. That'll differ from each one, but what they always have is the band. So that's something where they can really catch your eye.
Yeah. And I made that mistake myself. Honestly, I've picked cigars when I was just starting out. I remember, what's it called now? La Roma del Caribe, or it's called La Roma de Cuba in the US, but that's a trademarked one for Europe. But that one had like it was the Mi Amor, which had like the picture of that, like that woman or whatever on it. Like it was just an eye-catching band. It was just cool, but it was a cigar that I really didn't like. And the Prophet, what's it called now? It has the bird on it. That bird that flies. San Cristobal. It's called San Cristobal in the U.S. But that's another one that's trademarked in Europe, so it has another name here but yeah, it's called San Cristobal in the U.S. And that has like really cool art, and I remember buying that pretty much for that reason when I was starting out. Another cigar that I just didn't like. So yeah, it's just a dumb reason to buy a cigar, and just a mistake that you make. Can be obvious, but fun to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about the next one, lad?
Next one is not being able to give blends. Brands. I joined the two words there. Blends, brands, and cigars in general a second try. Because we all know that like cigars are obviously way too inconsistent. Just like to allow one single cigar or one single blend be representative of all the cigars in that line. So a tip is to just like if you had a bad experience with a cigar, you can understand if you don't want to turn right back to it, but don't shy away from that just based on one cigar, because this
happens so often. This happens so often, to be honest. We talk to a lot of people about cigars all the time, obviously through Instagram and the DMs, and there's a lot of people that have had one bad cigar once from one brand, and they're like, oh, I don't like that brand. And I'm like, what do you mean? You didn't like that one cigar you had that one time that happened to be from that brand? But that doesn't. And I was the same way, man. Like I have my example with Camacho there, which I've really gone through a renaissance with that brand. Because I had one of my first cigars. I talked about this before probably, but it was the Camacho Ecuador, and it was one of the worst rolled cigars. It was so light that you literally couldn't smoke it. Like the draw was so loose that even half puff was charred. It just tasted burnt. And it was awful. And like Camachos are decently expensive here in Sweden for a non-Cuban. They're one of the more expensive non-Cuban brands that aren't like Davidoff or whatever. And I was just pissed. So I was like, I'm not gonna, whenever I went to the shop and I looked at brands, I would immediately not go to Camacho because I just had such a bad connotation there. And then we were sent some Camachos, and I tried the Camacho ABA, and it was an amazing cigar, and it was perfect in construction, obviously, but also incredibly good in flavor. And then I also purchased a few more Camachos after that experience, because I was like, I got to give him another shot. And boom, every single Camacho I've had since has been very, very nice. Like I've enjoyed every single one of them. Obviously, some are better than others, as with most brands, but in general, it's been good. So that was just one very, unlucky dud, and that shaped my whole. It's just it's crazy how that can go. But it I'm glad that I we got sent some Camachos from Whiskey Laddie on Instagram,
yeah.
because that opened up my mind. I probably still wouldn't have tried another one. So yeah, that's a really bad mistake that's important to
very true
to make.
And just like you said, with us like being able to try cigars that we otherwise probably wouldn't be able to try because people have been so kind to send it to us, is another thing that we've received just because of you guys being complete dons. But that's another thing, like a mistake that you might be making is like not being able to step out of your comfort zone and trying those different types of cigars. Like you just said, the ABA and Charles giving us the Gurkhas. For us, that was also like stepping out of our comfort zone, just trying the acids for the video, and the
just so much stuff that
Manila as well. Which have like these have come from us doing these projects as fun things, but it's something that you definitely should do to widen your horizons on just like the cigar playing field. And because obviously you might find something that becomes your new favorite brand or new favorite country.
100%, man.
So, yeah.
100%. Like the ABAs, that to me, like barrel aged tobacco, just sounds kind of gimmicky. I probably wouldn't have purchased that in a shop in first hand, but like that was an amazing cigar. And I think, like you said, we do a lot of things that make us do some try cigars that we probably wouldn't have done like otherwise, like the acids. But I think it can be hard, because I think a lot of people that follow us are like us, just regular guys, like not smoking cigars all the time. And if you're smoking a cigar once a week or even less, I can understand it feels, not scary, but you don't want to risk trying something weird when you know what you like. You're like, I like medium bodied Cubans, so I'm gonna go for Monte Cristo this weekend, because I know I'll like that. But like at the end of the day, it's with everything in life, with trying food and all that stuff. It's just risking it every once in a while at least is so worth it. And there's so much stuff to try. Like cigars are way too good. The world of cigars is way too good for you to just smoke Cubans, just smoke non-Cubans, just smoke one type of body or whatever. There's so much to try. We're just leaving you on like a very dreamy note. This is the last one, but try everything, guys. Go spread your wings and fly throughout the cigar world.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be one of the first things you do when smoking cigars. It's like just go on these. I would recommend starting out with the basic like known brands, like we were talking about with the famous Cuban brands, the famous non-Cuban brands, and then once you've gotten like a little feel for cigars and everything, then there's so much more to explore. Like you literally won't be able to smoke every single cigar in the world, pretty much, because there's new stuff coming all the time as well. So yeah, exactly. It's a nice world out there.
Yeah. And we intend to enjoy it, lad. But that was solid. I think we got some good stuff there. Some stuff that was probably obvious, but I think we managed to expand on everything at least a little bit. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this episode, even though it was a little delayed. We hope it was worth it anyway. And
worth the wait. Yeah, awesome, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you shortly.
Yeah, we'll see you guys on Instagram or YouTube or wherever you watch our stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah, cheers, guys.
Cheers.